In many ways, it was an international coming-out party. Singapore, a city-state of roughly 5.6 million people, was at the top of the news of the day around the world. Its massive ports, delicious food, clean and efficiently run.
This is a country of profound grace and beauty.
I think the branding name of Singapore remains intact. Very quickly is able to organize this extremely high-level event that requires extreme security assurances.
Song Sung-won has worked in the banking sector in Singapore close to 30 years. He says high-profile events such as the summit can only help the city-state. Much of its income is based on geography and having the second busiest port in the world, with 2/3 of the economy revolving around the service industry. With thousands of journalists in Singapore this week, it has been widely reported that this city-state spent about $20 million on security and other measures associated with hosting this important summit. And what did they get in return? Well, something that is difficult to put a price tag on.
That kind of branding, I think, is invaluable from that side. Anyone who hasn't heard of Singapore, and there were many, and who thought that Singapore is part of either Malaysia or China, now say, oops, okay, it's a small city-state, I know where that is now.
Hopefully, legions of journalists got a chance to try the multicultural dishes at one of the many hawker centers, where stalls are set up for tasty, low-cost meals. And at any given time, there are 1 million tourists in Singapore, many taking in the image of the merlion, half lion, half fish, the national icon. But Singapore's financial success is relatively young, cropping up in the past half-century. Time was, this was a dirt-poor country, with the bay jam full of tiny wooden boats selling goods. In part by coming here, Team Trump is trying to convince Pyongyang that the poor, isolated DPRK could evolve into a Singapore.
I think Singapore does help to show them in terms of if you can do things properly, transparent, honest government, with policy consistency for the long run, you can do this as well.
It's a tall order that would take a generation or more, and a massive change in direction for Pyongyang's government. But among the winners this week is Singapore, a tiny, shining speck of a city-nation on the ocean that many believe elevated its status under the brightest of the bright lights. Sean Caleb, CGTN, Singapore.